Ladies and gentlemen, the person that you're looking at in this picture is Mark Meadows, and this is Trump's chief of staff. And he recently went on an interview and said, "We're not going to control the pandemic," in a heated interview. And ladies and gentlemen, this is October 25th, 2020. Let me go ahead and play this audio for you.
NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House. Kelly, good to talk to you this afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this. Listen, let's take a look at some of the polls that we're getting out of New Hampshire. A SurveyMonkey recent poll has Joe Biden up on the president by double digits there. So talk me through what we were hearing from the president a little bit earlier today as he spoke for about 90 minutes or so in New Hampshire.
Well, it might seem a curious destination for the president to go to New Hampshire and Maine today, and that polling suggests it might be a waste of the president's time. But 4 years ago, he lost the state narrowly. And when I say narrowly, I mean a fraction of 1 percentage point. And there's a Republican governor in that state and an independent spirit in that state, and that's what the president was trying to reach. At the same time, the Union Leader, one of the powerful newspapers there, with a many-generation Republican-leaning editorial page, endorsed Joe Biden. So it is striking that the president would invest some of his time there today. Now, he is just on his way to Bangor, Maine, and that's interesting because Maine assigns its electoral votes based on congressional district. And 4 years ago, the president won the 2nd congressional district, getting 1 electoral vote, and hopes to repeat that again this time, where there is a base of his type of voter, a lot of men who work in non-college related industries, and he's got a base of support there. So we're down to the point this close to the election. We're trying to pluck off 4 electoral votes in New Hampshire, 1 in the district in Maine is worth the president's time, along with what we'll see over the days to come of some of the bigger battleground states. So the president argues that the public polling we see doesn't match his experience of it. And he likes to say, look at the crowds that he attracts as a measure of his ability to win again. That is his kind of metric. The polling is in a different class, and he is going to try to show that he's willing to get out there and fight for votes in a very personal way, day after day. Even with the pandemic, even with all of the restrictions that are being followed by the Biden side, President Trump is trying to grind it out. Yasmin?
So with the president, Kelly, on the campaign trail saying that this pandemic is all but over, despite the fact that we had 85,000 folks newly infected with coronavirus as of Friday, you have his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, on CNN earlier today, coming under fire for some of the responses that he gave to Jake Tapper. Talk us through that.
Well, here, Mark Meadows, who has been at the president's side on this and is arguing that the administration is not trying to control the pandemic, but is trying to hurry up the therapeutics and treatments and vaccines that will help the country get past it. Almost using the president's experience as a COVID patient who rebounded and is doing well, as if that could apply to Americans broadly, despite the cases and hospitalizations we're seeing, despite the death rate that we're seeing. And while the death rate overall has declined, we've seen this soaring number of cases, and not just asymptomatic cases, but hospitalizations. So here is how the chief of staff to the president tried to argue that today with Jake Tapper.
Here's what we have to do. We're not going to control the pandemic. We are going to control the fact that we get vaccines, therapeutics, and other mitigation.
Why aren't we going to control the pandemic?
Because it is a contagious virus, just like the flu.
Yeah, but why not make efforts to contain it?
Well, we are making efforts to contain it.
By running all over the country, not wearing a mask?
Jake,
that's what the vice president's doing.
We can get into the back and forth. Let me just say this. Is what we need to do is make sure that we have the proper mitigation factors, whether it's therapies or vaccines or treatments, to make sure that people don't die from this.
So that distills the argument we hear so often from the White House that they are putting a focus on, if you get this, this is how we treat it, instead of the steps like mask wearing, social distancing, and all those other things, which they do to a degree. But Mark Meadows is among those who does not wear a mask frequently. Neither does the president. He talks about being immune now after his own infection. That's scientifically questionable as well. So it's just this approach that this White House and administration and campaign are taking that many scientists say is risky and puts many more Americans in harm's way.
I mean, it really is just astounding considering the fact that Dr. Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC, essentially said we actually can control this pandemic. We can get it under control in the next 6 to 8 weeks if every single American, exactly, Kelly O, wears a mask. And I just want to remind folks, by the way, the treatment that the president had, this antibody cocktail developed by Regeneron, that is not available to the majority of Americans. He used emergency authorization to get that treatment. NBC's Kelly O, my friend, as always, so good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, so you heard that, right? So they said they are not concerned about controlling it. They're worried more about treatment. But to me, just looking at the kind of treatment that they have, ladies and gentlemen, they're already telling you the vaccine, when it comes out, is really not going to help the majority of the people. They are expecting 30 to 50% success with the very first vaccine, which means it could still be the majority of the country with COVID and very few people, even responding to the vaccine. Or you'll have a situation just like the flu. You get the flu shot and still get the flu. And as far as treatment is concerned, they said the treatment that they have lined up is lackluster. So this is what is coming out of the Trump administration. So you see Meadows on CNN said that the administration is making efforts to contain the coronavirus, but what is important is to make sure people don't die from this. So they're not really concerned about containing it at all. Well, I think that's kind of risky, being that you have so many people in the country with pre-existing conditions. So if you are not into controlling it, then I see a danger in that. But I guess that's just me. All right. So when we look at the number of cases increasing, what we have to do is make sure we fight within therapeutics and vaccines, which we technically don't have either of those. You don't have that right now. you know Take proper mitigation factors in terms of social distancing and mask when we can. And remember, Meadows is another one out here never seen with a mask. He's going all over the place traveling, no mask. And we know Trump don't wear a mask, and we know Pence don't wear a mask. It just kind of, to me, when you are going around telling people to wear masks and they're looking at you and you never have one on, I just think that message is falling upon deaf ears at that point. You're not leading by example because you don't feel you have to do that. But it don't look good when you're telling somebody to do something and you yourself are refusing to do it. It just don't look good. That do as I say, not as I do, that stuff don't work. Y'all need to get off of that. That stuff don't work. Okay. And this is what Meadows said. And when we look at this, we're going to defeat it because we're Americans. That is nothing but fluff talk. That's all that is. He defended Pence's decision to stay on the trail, saying that the vice president is essential personnel, so he doesn't need to quarantine. Really? Well, we know Trump didn't quarantine. He only stayed in the hospital for what, less than 3 days? That's not a quarantine. Trump, who has also contracted the virus this month, along with the First Lady, Melania, and remember, their son got it too. And more than 20, actually 34 people especially that Rose Garden event. Now, remember, that was an outdoor event, and all of those people still got COVID. So it didn't matter that they were outdoors. And he continued saying the US is rounding the corner on the pandemic, even though key statistics are on the rise. No, we're not rounding any corner. I guess they just like hearing themselves talk. We're not rounding any corner. This stuff is going up rapidly in the country. And it's going to get worse because remember, the holidays are coming up. People gather for Halloween. They have them Halloween and masquerade parties. People will come together for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, they're saying it's going to be what they call holiday spread, where each holiday is going to bring an increase in coronavirus in the US. So, no, they don't have nothing under control. They have nothing contained, nor are they trying to contain it, period. You know, those are just, I guess, talking points they have to go out there and say. But what have they done to contain this thing? You can't even get people to stay on code with the mask. And as long as you can't even get people to do simple things, you are never going to have this thing contained. That is wishful thinking. But y'all, please tell me what you think about what Mark Meadows said when he said we're not going to control the pandemic. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.